Hey, what's up everybody? This is my new instrument, which I am calling the Arcus. It's a drum sequencer, synthesizer / sample player. Has up to 64 steps, broken out into 4 different pages. Has 5 different instruments. Getting started, switching this knob here will change between the drum sounds. We got all 5 ending with the sample player. The first one being the kick drum. And this knob here will do, when the sequence is stopped, it will change between the 4 different pages. As you can see, we have some steps on this page, but none of the other ones. So let's get started with some of the sounds. This is just the kick drum. And on all of the instruments, the first 3 knobs are very similar. The first being the level of the instrument, the second one here being the decay, and then the third one being the pitch. And these kind of act a little bit differently depending on what instrument you have selected. The envelopes for the pitch and whatnot will change a little bit. Snare, which is kind of a little bit more of a clap sound, depending on where you have the settings. So we got our pitch, we have a decay wide open there. And I'll clamp down the decay a little bit, adjust the pitch to paste. You can hear you can get some pretty crazy sounds depending on where your decay and pitch knob rest there. So let's move on to the third instrument, which is hi-hat. And this is pretty much just a white noise. And we have our decay knob. And this knob is actually pretty much just does a filter on the hi-hat white noise. So you can get some varying sounds there with our hi-hats. All right, we're going to move on to the toms, which are indicated with the yellow LEDs. And pretty much the same deal here. We have pitch and decay. The pitch envelope will change depending on the length of the decay. Then the last instrument here is our sample player. So first two knobs are pretty similar, second one being decay. The third one is actually the sample selection knob. So here you can scroll through the samples that you have recorded onto the machine and select which one you want. So those are all of the instruments. The next four knobs in this section are the global effects. So these apply to all instruments. So the first one is a bit crusher. And our next two are a delay, the first one being delay time, and the second one being delay feedback. You can almost get some like Carplus strong sounds with a really short delay time. And the very last knob here in this section is a cutoff filter. Then we have our two buttons here. This red button is record automation, and it does some other functions. And then the green one is mostly start and stop, but it does have another function as well. So let's go ahead and make a quick sequence here. I'll just make something really basic, put in some kick drums. I'll move over to our snares. Maybe just a single snare, and then we'll put in some hi-hats. Dial down the decay on these guys. And we'll go ahead and start our sequence. So now that the sequence is playing, this knob acts as our tempo. All right. So we have a pretty basic sequence there. Let's put in some samples. So I'm just going to randomly pop some in here. And we're going to use the record automation to change between the samples. So go ahead and click that on. And you'll see the top row of LEDs will start blinking red there. So that means we're in record automation. So I just recorded some automation choosing between the 16 different samples. So now we have some more automation. Let's put in some bit crusher, maybe some cutoff. So yeah, all of the parameters you can automate recording while the sequence is running. So as far as the length of the sequence, it is determined by if there are any steps on the various pages. So right now we're just using the first 16 steps. So if we go to a second page and we enter in some more steps in that page, we'll just pop in a couple kicks here and then play the sequence. And you can hear that's now twice the length. So you can do that up to 4 pages, which is 64 steps. So now we're going to get into the menu. So in order to access the menu, you'll long press for 1 second on the start stop here. And you'll see this display of LEDs. So in this mode, this first button here will start and stop your sequence. So these next 4 LEDs indicate the sync mode you're in. And this thing works exactly like a pocket operator. So the first sync mode means it's going to send a pulse signal. So the audio will be sent on the right channel of a stereo cable and the pulse will be sent on the left channel. And you can sync this with any pocket operator that way. The second mode, where the LEDs come in from the right to the left, means that it will receive a pulse from something like a pocket operator. So it'll split the incoming audio, the stereo audio cable, where the right channel will go into the effects and the left channel will go into the pulse and drive the sequencer. The third mode here is just both at once. So it splits the incoming audio and the audio out. Then the last mode is just no synchronization whatsoever. So it treats the in and out as normal stereo in and out. So the last 4 buttons here are for saving and loading sequences. The red LEDs above the black buttons are to save. And then the green LEDs to the right are to load. There's 4 slots available. So the first black button correlates to the first white button. That's slot number 1 for saving. The second one to the second one, third to the third, and fourth to the fourth. So if you hit any of these white buttons, you'll be loading a sequence. And go ahead and load another sequence here. And the fourth one, which is just a hi-hat pattern. So everything about the sequence is saved. All of the automation, all of the steps. The only thing that isn't saved is the tempo. And you can switch between these while the sequence is playing, but it's not going to stay in time. It takes a second for it to load all that information, so you can't really swap between sequences quickly. All right, so now we're going to talk about sampling. I don't know what was happening with my camera on this shot, so sorry for the weird distortions. But so we have the OP1 hooked up into the input of the Arcus. And if you hit the red button while the sequence is not playing, you enter into the sample record mode. All of these blue LEDs on the top row indicate there's already a sample saved to that slot. And we have 2 available slots at the end. So you can hear the input coming in from the OP1. And you can see the LEDs on the bottom row act as a meter for the incoming audio. And in this mode, these 2 knobs act differently. The first one sets the gain of your input. And the second one sets the recording threshold. And that's indicated by that yellow LED that's moving. So you want to set that visually to where the incoming audio will hit it, and it'll actually change to a pink color, which you can't really see a whole lot on this shot, but it changed briefly to a pink color, indicating that that will trigger the automatic recording. So once you have that all set up, have your gain set up, have your threshold set up, you can go ahead and hit a button. If you do hit a button that a sample is on, it will automatically be deleted, so be aware of that. We're going to select this slot 15, which doesn't have a sample, and now it's ready to record. You can see the red LED blinking while it's recording. It'll record a sample for 2 seconds. And once it hits that threshold, it'll just record a 2-second sample. So you can only have 2-second samples on each of the 16 sample slots. So went ahead and recorded another sample there. So now all 16 of our sample slots are filled up. So we go back out of sample record mode. We go to our sample instrument. And And you can hear those samples we just recorded. And now we can use those in any sequence. So now that we have the OP1 still hooked up here from our samples, I want to talk about using this as an external effects processor, which is something I didn't really think about when I built it, but it ends up being pretty cool sounding. So even though if you have a sequence going, you don't necessarily have to use the internal sounds of it. You can just record an automation. So I just recorded some quick automation moving the cutoff knob, and the incoming audio will be affected by that. So here, recording a little bit of bit crush in there. And doing a little bit of delay automation. So yeah, we're not even using any of the internal sounds. We're just automating some effect changes. But here we'll put in just a couple random drum hits as well to add some texture. That's pretty much everything. I don't know if I mentioned the USB here on the back powers it, and it also will respond to a MIDI clock sent over USB. So you can drive the sequence in time from a DAW or an iPad or anything that will send a MIDI clock over USB. The input closest to the USB is the input. The next one is the output. And yeah, this is a pretty fun project. Uses a Teensy 3.2 and the Teensy audio board, Teensy audio library. I only have 4 of them, and they will once again probably be the only 4 that I make. I've kind of already moved on to a couple different projects that I'm pretty excited about. So yeah, it took me quite a while just to finish this up. It was kind of sitting for, 5 months or so as I was involved in other projects, but finally decided to shoot a video and clean up some of the code a little bit. I'm thinking about posting the code of all these on my GitHub. That might be happening just because people seem to be interested and I don't really want to make any more of them. So anyway, if you made it this far, thank you guys for watching. I have a bunch of new projects in the works, so stay tuned.